How you doing, everybody? John Arezzi here. Happy New Year to you all. First and foremost, welcome to Pro Wrestling Spotlight Live. It's January the 2nd, 2021, finally. Got rid of this godforsaken year, 2020. And we're here to bring in the new year. There's a lot going on in the wrestling business. Today's show, we have a jam-packed show. We haven't been on for a few weeks, and I apologize for that. I've been feeling a little under the weather myself here in New York, just a little lethargic, and got my temperature gun here, so let's check it out. It's good, 97.9. I'm a little chilly. Let's bring on producer Dominic for a second before we go over everything. Hey, producer Dominic, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, we're good here. We're in the clubhouse. We both waited online several hours for COVID tests today, so we'll see how that turns out in a few days. But anyway, it's a crazy time right now. This week's show, we're going to talk about COVID the whole hour. How's that, everybody? Everybody want to hear that? No, you don't. I don't either. Anyway, we're going to bring Don Laible in a little bit. Don did a great interview with Pedro Morales' widow not too long ago. We got the Weekend of Champions 1992 question and answer, like I promised. So we're going to play that. Dominic, what do you want to bring up? Anything special tonight? You want to talk about anything special?
Hopefully just to ring in the new year on a positive note.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need a positive note. And, of course, Alex Robertson with the news is coming up as well. So we're happy to be back. Hope everybody's holidays were good. Hope your New Year celebration was good. Because we were all tired of 2020 and now 2021. Let's hope that we start to slowly get back to normal. Let's bring on Alex. Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, John?
We're doing okay. You're doing all right there. You had I heard from before we went on the air, you said kind of a quarantine Christmas and Boxing Day there.
Yeah.
Yourself, but it has to be driving you crazy as well. I think it's driving everybody crazy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, I think it's just, everyone, you're right. It's driving everyone crazy. But the fact that I work in news and I have to see the numbers every day go up and up and up and up, yeah. I think it just makes me all the more frustrated.
Yeah, it's that's the way it is here. I mean, you just look at them every day, even in New York, Long Island. I mean, I guess they had more deaths here yesterday in Nassau, Suffolk than they had since May in one day period. So, I mean, it's really scary, and we're all sick of it. We're all sick and tired of it. I know we have the news to talk about, obviously, but a dear friend of the show, a dear friend of mine, and I know you're going to bring this up, but our friend Mick Foley had a message for everybody, and we're going to play that before we get into the news. So I'm going to share the screen. And I am going to bring Mick on with the announcement that he made not too long ago today on his social media accounts. And here's something that my heart breaks for this guy, because Christmas is his special favorite time of year. The guy plays Santa Claus all the time. But let's bring Mick on and hear his message to everybody, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Hey everyone, this is Mick Foley with the news that I did. No appearances, but I did cut back dramatically. I did 4 virtual signings, 2 reality
people can't hear him.
Hey everyone, this is Mick.
I don't know why. Can you hear him now? Anybody hear him? Good. Sorry about that, everybody. Can you hear him, Alex?
On December 12th, there were only 2 people in the room with with me. They were both wearing masks. I did take my mask off so I could do a better job on the virtual signing. And one of the gentlemen ended up having symptoms later that night and reported to me that he had tested positive. So I waited the 5 days and got tested myself. And I've been stuck in a hotel room by myself for the past 18 days. Obviously not a lot of fun. Worse than the physical effects of body aches and loss of smell and affected hearing and being easily fatigued is that I missed out on Christmas, Christmas Eve, New Year's Day with my family. So I want people to take this very seriously. I know that some will kind of get a kick out of me contacting the virus after being so adamant about wearing masks and social distancing. I did my best. No, I could have done better. I could have done no appearances, but I did cut back dramatically. I did 4 virtual signings, 2 reality shows, 2 personal appearances, a commercial, and 1 WWE event for The Undertaker's retirement. That's almost 11 months. So I cut back dramatically. I had 12 COVID tests done. I tried to take it as seriously as I could, but it's bad stuff. And I hope all of you will take it very seriously. There's a vaccine, better days on the horizon, but there's still some tough days ahead. So please continue to wear your masks, social distance, avoid travel if you can. And hopefully we'll look back on 2021 as a much better year. 2020. Wishing all of you the very best and hoping all of your days will be nice.
Mick Foley, I'm sorry if the volume is low. You know, I apologize. So I don't know what I could do about that. I had it up as far as I can get it up there. Alex, you heard it okay?
I heard it fine. Yeah.
Dominic, you heard it good? All right. I'm sorry. I mean, some people might have heard it low or not, but anyway, that's a message from Mick. And I know how careful this guy I mean, ultra careful, more careful than most people was Mick. Yeah. And just the fact that he did a virtual signing, there were 2 people in the room. He took his mask off for a little bit to make the experience a little bit better, and he gets it. It's crazy, and it affects people in different ways. Some people it hits really hard. Some people don't even know they got it. So it's crazy. But anyway, we've had a horrific few weeks in the business and in wrestling, and I know we're going to talk about this gentleman here who was it's probably in my recent memory as far as the tributes that were done for John or Brodie or Luke, wherever you call them, was probably more than most wrestlers have gotten in my recent memory. I mean, for years and years, but that was a whole tragedy. But Alex, I know you got lots of stuff to cover tonight, so why don't we get to it?
Yeah, so of course we can start with Brodie Lee. I mean, the show that AEW put on this week in memory of him, and they called it a celebration of life show. I thought it was beautiful. I mean, just the opening scene of not only just the roster, but the entire AEW staff from backstage to talent came out and they did the 10-bell salute. And, you know, you see the people that he clearly touched them because they were beside themselves. You know, and it just goes to show you how special of a person that he was to them, aside from just being in the Dark Order. So like that to me was awesome. And the fact that Lance Archer, when he came out and did his match, he dressed like Luke Harper, his former self in the WWE, in tribute to him. And John Silver, who was part of the Dark Order, dressed up as Brodie Lee for his match. And then we saw Eric Rowan come out, who was his former tag team partner with the Bludgeon Brothers. And they also, they were part of Bray Wyatt's family way back when. So it was overall just a beautiful show. And the fact that, Tony Khan made the effort to bring his entire family, his 2 kids and his wife, onto the ring, and they gave him a belt. They gave the kid a belt, Brodie Jr., in memory of him. I thought that was very touching. It was hard for me not to cry the entire time watching that, So it was very, very sweit. Yeah.
It was very emotional, and they handled it in a very classy manner. And they really paid a whole hour tribute to it. And, reminiscent of when some people have passed in the WWF when Eddie Guerrero passed. I mean, the show tributes, but this was something different. This was something special, and I think the whole organization at AEW handled it really, really classy. Such a sad event, such a shocking thing.
Yes.
And then there's some controversy around it. I mean, Bruce Mitchell. I mean,
yeah.
That really set off a firestorm across social media, and Bruce had a 30-year relationship with the Pro Wrestling Torch that ended because of it, because he put something up that was speculative, and certainly, you hate to use the phrase, but before the body. Before he was even, it was all over. I mean, he's already accusing and saying that it could have been COVID related. Well, the family denied it. And it was just, and I've known Bruce for 30 years, and Bruce has gone off on me, a long time ago, and, made amends with him and all. But stuff like that, it was out of line. It really
wasn't necessary.
And Wade had no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessary, whether it was COVID or not COVID related. We know now that it wasn't COVID related, or at least that's what their family is saying. And you know what? If that's what the family is saying, probably should just take their word for it, because whether it's COVID or whether it's not, it doesn't make a difference. He was a great wrestler and he's gone, and it was tragic. That's really all that matters. So I think you're right. It's sad that, a 30-year career can end that way, but it just goes to show you that you got to be really careful what you say.
Absolutely. And that caused a firestorm. He's off of Twitter now. I mean, he deleted his account. So Donnie's trying to connect with us, Alex. So let's talk about, the next story, and I'll see if I can get Donnie all straightened out over here.
Yeah. So one thing that I did want to talk about was we didn't have a chance to, but TLC. And TLC, it was a pretty good pay-per-view from my standpoint anyway. And I think everyone's favorite match that came out of that was the Firefly Inferno match, which I wasn't really sure when they announced it what it was going to be. But then when I saw it, mind blowing.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, what have we come to?
You're right.
I mean, it's a work. We know it's a work. We know this is all whatever, it's wrestling, but to have a murder.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which,
to engulf someone in flames.
Yeah.
And see the body lit up.
Mm-hmm.
And then he comes on TV and does, I mean, this is this is now too much. And I love the Firefly Funhouse, and I love Bray Wyatt and the character development there, but this is now too much of this. This is crap.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, the fact that the whole stipulation was you win by setting your opponent on fire, I think that went a little too far. But, they didn't really stop there, because they kind of made a storyline out of it and continued it. Now, we haven't seen Bray Wyatt or The Fiend since that event took place, obviously, because he burned. And we keep seeing Alexa Bliss and Randy Orton going at it. And if anybody watched Monday Night Raw, they saw what probably happened. And what they're implying is that Alexa Bliss was also set on fire, that Randy Orton also set her on fire. So I don't know what's going to happen next week in response to this. I'm assuming they're going to have to give all of us a sense of what happened. But to me, I thought, okay, this is maybe a reason for them to up their ratings a little bit, because we know that their ratings have not been very good lately. And when I did look at the ratings, I was surprised to see that it was kind of still at a standstill. They're still at 1.77 million viewers, which is very steady the last few months. It's been very up and down. And you'd think something like that would make people want to tune in. But maybe to your point, maybe people were very turned off by that TLC match. And the fact that they're continuing it isn't making their cause any better.
No, I mean, it's just over the top. And we just posted a comment up there that Vince McMahon did return after being blown up in a limousine.
Yeah.
But wasn't that around the time? Was that around the time of the Benoit murder?
It was around then, yeah.
Right? And that's when they just stopped that storyline. And after Chris had did what he did, and then they just moved on from that. But I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is I don't know if we're ever coming back wrestling's ever coming back from all this nonsense now with these, these are ridiculous storylines, and it's just so scripted, and I'm just so disgusted with it. I really am. I'm disgusted with these insane fantasy bookings, and but setting somebody on fire just put it over the top for me. I was like, I don't feel like watching it anymore.
And I think that the same can be said about both of the brands, both SmackDown and Raw. I mean, Raw, like, we just said that's probably the reason why most people would tune out. But even SmackDown at this point, you can see that a lot of the storylines are running really thin. And it's even for me as a journalist, it's hard for me to watch it because you want to be entertained because you like wrestling so much. But it's coming to a point where it's becoming stale, and you can see the different approaches that different companies have in producing storylines. It produces a very different product. The WWE, as we know, is very scripted, whereas AEW, a lot of the talent do their own scripting themselves. They don't have writers, and the two shows are very different, and you can see that. So I don't know what the response is to this or the solution is to this. All I'm hoping is that they start to come up with more storylines that people can actually either relate to or are into and will tune in every week to watch. Because what happens is that if these Raw and SmackDowns don't get any better, nobody's going to tune into the pay-per-views, no matter what pay-per-view it is, whether it's WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, it doesn't matter, right?
True. We're getting a lot of comments on this stuff. Haven't watched for 20 years. AEW got me back, and it became unwatchable for Chris. And I mean, you get to the point where, and how far back do you go? How many years back do you go? When did you start becoming a fan and watching?
I started watching around 2015.
Okay, so not that long ago.
No. And you can see it's changed a lot. And just recently, actually, I started watching like all the way back from in the early 80s until now. So you see the evolution of the storyline. And, I'm becoming more of a fan of what it used to be more than what it is now. Even the Attitude Era. And I've said my piece about the Attitude Era. I would rather watch that than watch what's going on now, because at least the storylines are better. My reservations are still there, but at least it's tolerable to watch.
Yeah. How do you think I feel? And I go back into the 70s.
That's right.
And seeing, Bruno Sammartino, jog to the ring with no music and just the belt, and the crowd would explode because most of them thought it was not a work.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about Pedro Morales with his widow and Don Laible in a bit. And I mean, I remember just those days. And then, the 80s were the 80s, and it's had a little bit of a decline. And then Backlund was a champion. And then the Hulkamania Rock and Wrestling Connection, which brought all the mainstream media in. And attendance, was crazy. And then Vince started doing 3-4 shows a day and promoting nothing but steroid monsters and changing the whole thing. And then the sex scandals, the steroid scandals, and then it drops off the cliff. And then it goes back up with the Attitude Era, and then at least it's exciting. And you have the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's just kind of so out there and so left field. And people say, well, it's just the audience has changed, or it's younger people. And no, it's not. It's wrestling is wrestling. It didn't have to turn into this so unbelievable, it's just so unbelievable now that it could have fallen off the cliff, never to return. I don't, how can you bring it back?
Yeah. Well, I'm here to tell you that the audience hasn't changed, because I am part of that younger demographic, and I don't think the audience has changed, because my opinion, it varies from era to era. And that's not because, my mindset has changed. I still think the way that I think about wrestling, it's a very different time period to watch wrestling. And unfortunately, it's got to come back somewhere, right? We've got to get better here.
Something has got to change. And I think it really ultimately comes from, if the WWE is ever sold, or McMahon finally decides to call it a day, which I don't think he ever will until it's over. But I think that in AEW, I mean, they do some things, and I mean, I watch AEW and I skim through the shit I don't like, and I watch the stuff that I do like. And with Raw, I mean, that's how I watch wrestling now. I'll just go through it
Yeah.
And I'll stop when I want to see something. And the last time I really enjoyed WWE wrestling was when Ronda Rousey was in, and the women's division exploded with Charlotte and Becky, and Ronda just brought this believability into it, and it looked kind of, the suspension of disbelief was there again, and now it's just totally gone. I mean, the pandemic had a lot to do with obviously the Thunderdome and all that glitz and production, but when you have these idiotic storylines, and you burn somebody in the ring, that's it for me.
That's right. I agree with you 100%. But I mean, the one thing that did come out of that TLC that was great, in my opinion, was we have Charlotte Flair back, and now she's teaming up with Asuka, and now they're the women's tag team champions. So
yeah,
that was my high that came out of that whole thing, because I wasn't expecting that, but I'm very happy to see that we have a quote unquote legend for the female division to lead them.
Right. I mean, I was happy to see Charlotte back. Yeah, I really was, because I really, she's so good at what she does.
That's right.
And I mean, so there's not very much there that's compelling to watch anymore. Do I watch NXT? I watch it occasionally, Brian. I watch it once in a while, and I just don't, I can't watch hours of this stuff anymore like I used to, because I get so turned off to it.
It's tough,
and it just turns me off, and I don't want to watch it anymore. And then I just start watching, the tapes from the 80s or, the 90s even, and the 70s. And that's kind of what I did. That's what I do these days. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it is for me. I would love to be able to kind of like have appointment viewing television and watch a show or two or three every week like I used to.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get that feeling back again, and because right now the way it is, I don't have the feeling. I love that. I love some AEW stuff. I mean, MJF, I really enjoy watching him, and there are things about, I love the announcing team on AEW, and I love some of the performers that are in there, because you have a mixture of you see Arn Anderson come out, or you see Tully come out, and you see Cody, and Cody just looks like he's bulking up and getting bigger by the week.
Yeah.
But what's going on there? But I try my best.
Yeah. Well, that's all we can do until something changes, right?
Yeah. I gotta take my temperature again, because I think I'm getting hot here.
You're burning up over there.
Look at that. 99.7.
Oh,
no,
John.
Only kidding. No.
Yeah. But
anyway.
In other news, maybe to make wrestling a little bit more excited, we're going to have the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is going to be coming back in 2021 with NXT. Now, they've already announced that Roderick Strong and Adam Cole are going to be a team together. They're going to announce the other teams next week, but I'm hopeful about this, because NXT does have some great talent, and what's more exciting than a tournament? So I'm hoping that's going to kind of spruce something up a little bit. I'll definitely be tuning in to see what happens there, but I've watched the classic in the past and I have enjoyed it. So I think it's going to be a good one to watch.
Well, I may have to check that out. Maybe it'll bring me back.
Maybe. There you go.
All right. I'll give it a shot and see what happens.
Yeah. And other than that, I mean, we've had some unfortunate injuries that were announced this week. Trent Taylor of AEW, of the Best Friends, he tore his pec muscle, so he's going to be out for at least a month.
Was that the guy you saw that took the bad fall? Because we were watching it, AEW, and you said that guy looks like he really got hurt.
Oh, the guy who fell on the top.
Yeah, was that him?
I think it was him. Yeah, because it wasn't that long ago. It was like a couple of nights ago. Yeah. So he's going to be out for at least a month. So hopefully everything's okay there. And we also heard that Pat McAfee, who was appearing every now and again on NXT, he is going to be off for a month, but it's not because he's injured. It's just part of the storyline. There was a lot of rumors on Twitter and a lot of news rumors that he may have been hurt or they may have fired him, but that is not the case. It's simply for the storyline. So we should see him back within a few months.
Okay. What about Lana going back to the other place?
Yeah.
Is she really hurt, or is that storyline?
No, I actually
get her off TV, because she was on our socials with a leg brace and a cast today, and that's pure storyline though, I think, is it or no?
I mean, I'm not quite sure. I've been going back and forth. It might actually be an injury. I mean, I can't really imagine that they would give her so much of an opportunity and a run that she would be just completely off of TV. You know, they were giving her so many opportunities, so many chances with Asuka, and it looked like it was going to go somewhere. Yeah. And I don't know if it was a work because they anticipated Charlotte coming back. So they thought we're just going to make a switch here. But I find that very hard to believe. They seem to have a lot of belief in her and that she can get better and that she can actually be a part of a legitimate team. So I find it hard to believe that they would just completely eliminate her from TV. So I'm actually hoping that it's because she's hurt. Because if they're going to put an invested amount of time into her, I would rather see them continue that rather than just kind of waste talent away, you know?
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens over there.
Wishful thinking, John. Wishful thinking.
That's what happens. I mean, you know, they did invest it. They put it through a table for 9 weeks, right?
Yeah, 9 weeks. Yeah.
That she was like, you know, if this is the way it is to get initiated, maybe, you know, I'll take it.
That's it.
And it's because her husband was on the other, you know, at AEW. Who the hell knows what goes on there? I mean, it's just kind of, there's just always been this incredibly, just personal decisions made on. I mean, I could get into it. I'm fired up. I mean, because a lot of the stuff I see is just pissing me off these days.
I get it.
Anyway. What else is shaking? What's going on? Anything good happening?
Well, lastly, if you know, since we're all in quarantine and everyone's looking for something new to watch, DDP's documentary film is on Amazon Prime.
Really?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It documents his career, and then it documents his career transitioning into yoga and how that actually helped him rather like in the ring. So it's a very interesting view of a wrestler's career and then how it transforms into something else, into what he actually does today and how he's actually helped other people, including Jake the Snake Roberts. So it's definitely to watch if you're looking for it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm going to definitely watch it. I mean, I've had, you know, I had DDP on tours of mine, and, you know, I had to deal with him and Jake Roberts, you know, a lot, and we had them integrated in the AAA when we brought Lucha to America in 1993. Yeah. So I'm curious to see how you know, DDP talks about his career, and especially what he's doing now by helping so many people with DDP Yoga and his outreach. So yeah, thank you for that tip. I mean, Amazon Prime DDP documentary. That's something for us to check out there, producer.
Yeah,
I'll definitely do that. Very, very cool. And there's some Hulk Hogan news too, or something. Is what's going on with him?
Yeah. He's opened his own restaurant in Clearwater, Florida. It's called Hulk's Hangout. Hogan's Hangout. Sorry, yeah, it just opened this week. It was a soft opening, which actually is kind of surprising because it's, if I'm not mistaken, they have a lot of COVID cases. So I'm not really sure this was the opportune time to open a restaurant, but nonetheless, if you're in the area and you can check it out, do so and let us know what it's like.
Yes. Maybe you'll see the Hulkster in there.
Maybe.
What's the DDP documentary called?
It is called Relentless.
Relentless. Look for that on Amazon Prime. Relentless DDP documentary. Well, you know, I appreciate it, Alex. Hadn't seen you in a while. It's been a few weeks. So I hope that 2021 is going to be a great year for all of us. And I really appreciate you reporting on all the latest news here each and every week. Brought to us by slamwrestling.net.
That's right. And hopefully I'll have some better news for you next week.
Very, very cool. It's good to see you, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Yep. See you soon.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Alex Robertson, slamwrestling.net. And speaking of slamwrestling.net, they got a new writer who's doing some stuff for them. And I think I know this guy. Do you know this guy coming up? Producer Dominic?
He's a good guy.
And there he is. Don Laible. Donnie, happy New Year, man.
Thoroughly. First of all, you know, I'm very interested to watch the DDP show.
Yeah.
I remember watching the documentary on Jake Roberts and how DDP was very influential in helping him out at the time.
Yeah.
Very, very.
Well, I had to bring DDP to Southeast Asia because Jake said he was going to babysit him.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take my friend, brother. He'll be my babysitter. He'll keep me out of trouble, brother.
he was with us in Dallas as well.
Yes, he was. You remember that trip? That was fun.
I enjoyed speaking to Pedro Morales' widow.
Yes.
Karen Johnson Morales, just an upbeat woman. She's up there in her years, but sounds years younger than she is. And she just spoke very lovingly about her husband. You know, they're married 52 years. And
we're gonna play some of that in a bit here. I mean, because that was it was a great little conversation you had. And what I got from that, Don, was the fact that she sounded much younger than she's in their 70s, or what is she, 56? I don't even know.
I think she's like 78, something like that.
Sound like a kid.
Sorry,
that's her nickname.
Yeah, come on. She's a wonderful lady. Lives in New Jersey, and not far from New York City, and just seems very content with life, and not any real connection with wrestling. She seemed, at least from the conversation I had with her, she was kept. That was Pedro's business, and when he came home, they didn't talk about it. She went to the matches very few times. But also, I'm interested about Hulk's Hangout. Next time I go to Central Florida, certainly would like to be there.
Yes. And Greg Oliver just put up the link to the story. I mean, this is your first piece of work for Slam Wrestling, Don?
Yeah. And you know, it motivated me. I mean, you've motivated me to do more. As I
got your message, I mean, from about a week ago. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I should play that. I mean, you got me fired up, Johnny.
That's why I called. Like today, I told you earlier. I spoke with Butcher for Sean.
Yes,
these are people that we were around for a long time, and people that I'm very familiar with. And I like to catch up on what they're doing, how they're feeling, what they do to long time away from the business. It's to me, it's fascinating. The person part, not the professional part, but the personal part. How they are, and so this is the first thing I did. I picked up the phone. I called Morales' widow, and before she could say anything, I tried to let her know, hey, I'm not a crackpot. I'm not trying to get anything out of her.
And she gave you permission to record her.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play some of that, just that conversation. So give people a little taste. I won't play the whole thing. It's a 20-minute conversation or whatever. But I am going to play some of that now, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. So, as they say in the biz now, that you talk about it on the other side, Don.
Oh, I'm getting hip on that, yeah.
Yeah, so, All right, let's see. Share screen. We're going to do this again. Application window, do-de-do-de-do, da-da-da-da-da. Make sure audio's good. And let's do this. Sorry. We're going to play this, Don. How's that?
Just let me.
Here we go.
Myself. I'm old enough to remember going to see your husband work throughout the Northeast in the early 70s. I'm 62 years old, and I met him several times at Cauliflower Alley banquets and whatnot. And I remember when your husband passed, I said, oh, my gosh, it was a part of my childhood and whatnot. And given the way the wrestling business transformed, when somebody in baseball or football passes, everybody's told about it, re-educated about that person's contributions. And in the wrestling business today, that's not really the case. And
no, it's really changed.
Yeah. And when I was reading some of the obituary, one of the obituaries I found, and I was marveled that you were married for, did it say 52 years?
Yes, we got married in 1974. So
tell me, how did you meet?
Okay, it was I trust you, and I'll tell you. It's a good story. I'm from Missouri originally, as you can tell probably from my accent. Kansas City, Missouri, and so how you want to get through college. I was teaching elementary school in Braytown, Missouri, and I taught there for 3 years. Then it was time for me to leave, to get out of the house, go on my own. So my mom and I, we drove across the country I was offered a job. I was offered a job in California, Garden Grove, at a lot of money compared to Missouri. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to take it, and so I went to California. And it's funny that my mom and I, we went to wrestling matches in Kansas City, Missouri in the early 60s. Kind of crazy, but it was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed wrestling. And so went out there, and I saw Pedro at Olympic Auditorium. Well, first of all, I saw him in Long Beach, California, because I went to the wrestling match. And, of course, very young, very handsome, you know, as you can imagine.
Sure.
In his prime and early prime. And everybody was just crazy about him. And then I went with my brother and his wife to Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. And met him again, saw him again, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And, of course, after the wrestling matches, the guys, you know, they would, after the matches, they come out and look at the back and then look over the audience, look at the girls, whatever, you know.
Sure.
And so he saw me, I saw him, and he with his fingers, he said, you know, like pointing at me, you, to me, and wiggling his fingers, come here. And I did. And so that was it. It was like fireworks and bang. That was it.
Was that around, I'd say, 1971?
65.
1965. Okay.
Yeah, 1965.
Well, he really was young. Because I first saw.
Yeah, 24, 25 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
And how'd your mom and relatives think of, boy, she's
Well, my mom wasn't there then, and my brother and his wife, they said, oh, well, I guess she'll be all right. You know, she's 25 years old, so, no, they were fine. I think they wondered about it a little bit, but they were fine.
Wow, it's a long courtship. Well,
you know, and that was it, you know. And then, of course, I taught for 5 years to 1970.
Mm-hmm.
So I met Pedro at 65. That's when I went to California, Garden Grove School District. And anyway, then started dating him, you know. And, of course, he was very busy. He was all over the place, you know, with his wrestling in and out of Los Angeles, Bakersfield, oh, my gosh, you know, Long Beach, everywhere in California at that time.
And well, you had to come across one of the greatest voices of all time, Jimmy Lennon. I mean, he was.
Oh, yes, he was great. Yes, I met Jimmy Lennon.
That was the voice.
Yes, of course. I know. Wonderful man.
Now, when did you decide that, well, he's going to New York to work
Okay,
there?
well, see, they had that period of time when Pedro was young, 25 years old, but he was wrestling all over, you know, and then he went to Japan. He wrestled in Japan during that period of time, you know, building up his popularity, of course, you know, and did that. And then he also went to Australia in that period of time, towards about probably 68, 69. He wrestled in Australia, and then he came back, and, you know, he came back from Australia, and then he was, well, we were in Hawaii. Vince McMahon Sr. was calling. They were talking.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they were talking about him coming to New York.
Mm-hmm. Huh. That's amazing, because I thought the timeline, did you get married in 1972?
Yes, we did.
Because that's the same time when I think of 1972, Shea Stadium, Bruno Pedro. That was, you know, the big buildup.
I have an original ticket from that match.
Do you? So tell me about you getting married, and then Pedro thinking about, you know, this big house show, this, you know, big arena show at the Shea Stadium.
Well, of course, you know, I really knew I was not involved in any of that. I just was an observer, of course, you know.
Right.
You know, with the business part of it. Yeah, well, I guess they worked a deal. You know, he was the old man. I always call him the old man, Vince Sr.
And
he was the one that was working with Pedro then, Vince Sr.
Right. Now, when you got married, was that in the East Coast and any of the wrestlers there?
No, really, Pedro was very private in that respect. We got married in Puerto Rico because his mother lived in Vieques, Puerto Rico. So we went to Puerto Rico, and he has a lot of family still in Puerto Rico, you know. So Vieques, Puerto Rico, we got married there at his mother's house with a judge and family.
And you know, just one thing just flashed in front of me, or I think it was around that time, because I grew up in the New York City area, and I remember the newspaper ad, and maybe it was on TV with the TV antenna that Pedro was endorsing.
Probably.
And so did you go to the match at Shea Stadium?
Yes, I did. Yes, and I have, like I said, I still have that one ticket that hasn't been. I've been holding on to it because I think it's significant to hold on to it. You know, it was a big event. First time a match like that ever to sell out Shea Stadium, you can imagine.
Yeah.
I don't think they've done it since. I don't think they would even, of course, now with the time.
Sure. What did you regularly go to see him when he had matches in, like, say, Madison Square Garden or?
Not that often. You know, Pedro, I think I don't know whether, anyway, but he wanted to kind of protect me. I don't know how else to say it, you know. He knew the business, it was business and everything like that. And no, I didn't get to see his big match, you know, and that's fine. That's the way it was, you know, and everything like that. I think he just wants to protect me.
Well, when he came home from, you know, back then everything was driving everywhere. Did he keep, you know, wrestling was just his job? When he came home, did he talk much about that? Or what did he like to do with you?
That was his business. Wrestling, he really didn't, you know, that was his job. It was his business. I knew about the matches and everything like that, but no, he was so busy. I don't think he had a day off. This man was wrestling everywhere. All that time, you know, he was wrestling everywhere.
I remember.
Young, you know, and everything.
How did he unwind? Did you guys like to go to movies, or what did you do what did he do to escape from, you know, his work life?
Oh, you know, Pedro really didn't need an escape. You know, he's such a wonderful man, you know, and everything. And he worked out a lot. He went to Brooklyn. You know, that's when we were in New York. He'd go over to the YMCA in Brooklyn, and he'd work out over there all the time. So he did a lot of working out. And this man was so busy, he didn't have a lot of free time.
Well, where
traveling, wrestling, you know, coming back and forth, and then we go to Puerto Rico to visit his family for vacation, and.
Nice vacation. Where in New York did you live?
Well, Don, I'm gonna put this thing down for a second here. Hold on a second. Donnie.
I'm here.
Fascinating woman. I mean, he always was kind of low key, and you didn't see him out at the bars a lot. You didn't see him like some of the other boys. And it sounds like from what your discussion with her, and there's all of it, I mean, on slamwrestling.net, I mean, it's there for you to read. And she sounded like he really protected her from the business too.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Pedro is one of the people, as I was thinking about coming on today, people that are, you know, a lot of times when you lose something or when it's over, maybe you think a little bit more and you appreciate things a little more. And I think over the years, you know, Pedro was a hard worker in the ring. And I'm thinking specifically about his matches at Madison Square Garden, Nassau Coliseum. Pedro was always in good shape, always took some good bumps, and the crowds popped tremendously for him. It really, I look back and I enjoyed, like, the first match I ever went to live. I was Pedro defending the belt with Jimmy Valiant, and it was just, you know, they presented him, and he came across as somebody a step above everybody. You know, right beneath him was Chief Jay Strongbow, was the second guy there.
It was the pecking order. It was like Morales or Strongbow, even Monsoon. Then, if you go, you know,
Victor Rivera,
right. Yeah. Right, exactly.
And I really appreciate him now when I look back at it. And I'm very happy that he had a good private life. You know, I didn't go into at all about their son who had passed a few years ago, because that really wasn't what I wanted to ask her about, nor somebody you don't know. You don't want to immediately get that personal with. But it's nice to know that she had a good life, you know, 52 years with him. I saw some pictures from newspapers around the time Pedro died in 2019, when he was at a rehab place in New Jersey. And, you know, seeing Pedro at 78 years old, I still think of them as when I look at the pictures in the magazines, you know, and it's nice to know that he had somebody, he wasn't alone. And it's nice that someone like Bob Backlund made it to the calling hours.
Right.
Anyway, it's just pleasant to know that he had a nice partner.
Yeah, well, slamwrestling.net is the place you could read more about that conversation that Don had with Karen Morales, and fascinating stuff, Donnie, and
John,
I
do want to ask, while I have you on this topic,
yeah,
what you mentioned about going to the Olympic Auditorium. That's one of the places, as a wrestling fan, I would have loved to have been there, because I watched them on television, during the week on Channel 41 in New York. You went to the Olympic. You met Jimmy Lennon. Give us an idea, just a quick synopsis of what that experience was like.
Well, I mean, it was, I have to thank Dr. Mike Lano, because he invited me out there in '74. I had never been on an airplane before, but I always wanted to go to the annual Battle Royal.
Yeah,
and Mike was the vice president of the Freddie Blassie fan club, and we were pen pals as well. And he invited me out to California for the 1974 Battle Royal, and it was surreal for me to be in that auditorium, because I loved watching it every week and seeing it and getting to meet Jimmy Lennon. And I was telling my nephew, Dominic, who's sitting next to me, that even the following day we went to KCOP Studios, Channel 13, and Dick Lane was another famous announcer there. But I remember being backstage with Mike when they were giving Andre the Giant a haircut. He was there and he was getting his hair. He won the Battle Royal, by the way. And Mike and I, we picked up a bunch of Andre's hair after the haircut, Imagine what that might be worth today. I kept a big clump of it. Don't know whatever happened to it. I think I had it for years, but I don't know, it gets lost in whatever. And that was the weekend with someone stayed, but Richard Dawson and Mike returned with his kids to his day. So, that was an amazing trip, and to see John Tolis for the first time, and Black Gordman, and I mean, it was just surreal to be there, and to hear Jimmy Lennon with his just famous, and just what a voice that guy had. It was amazing stuff.
You had given me many years ago an autograph book from when you were in Los Angeles. And Jimmy Lennon's autograph to you was neat. He said, "Any friend of Freddie's is a friend of mine."
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember that shit, man. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean,
that's great.
How many signatures were in that thing? That I had a bunch of guys sign it, right?
You had, I know Jimmy Lennon, and I know Andre was in there.
Yeah. Do you still have it?
I don't, and I don't even know what happened to it. I wish I did. Believe me.
I got Andre autographed now.
I know.
Pretty penny. Yeah, that whole book would have been worth a pretty penny.
Great. It was great for you to experience that.
Yeah. It was great. It was, and I took pictures of the ringside, and it was just kind of cool. It was just kind of a cool experience. I mean, like we reminisce a lot about this stuff, and your conversation with Karen Morales. I mean, we look forward to more of that stuff. And one of the biggest regrets I got was never being able to have Pedro, or never really working a deal out with him to have him at one of my conventions. I mean, that was. Was
he still working for WWF at the time?
Yeah, I think there was some tie-in still, and I tried to get him, and then it didn't go far, the conversation. But as we finish up today, we have some of that Q&A from the 1992 convention. Do you want to hang out and watch that?
Yeah, sure.
Because I've been promising this, and for everybody out there. Richard Newsom from England says, was Jimmy Lennon Jr. the boxing ring announcer? Yes, that was Jimmy Lennon's son. Yeah, That's it. Anyone here who would like to get a copy of this complete 2-hour Weekend of Champions tape? I mean, it's 2 hours in length. It has interviews. It has the Q&A. It has the auction with Eddie Gilbert. It has that reunion with Bruno and Zbyszko. I am going to make an offer. You could get a private link that I will send to you. So you can see the whole 2 hours, and that's just $10 if you want it. All you got to do is go to PayPal and send it to John at mattmemories.com. And if you would like it on a personal USB drive, I will download it for you and then mail it to you. $25 gets you the private link and the USB drive. And that will include the shipping as well. So $25 for the USB, and the private link, or if you just want the private link for the entire 2 hours, it's $10, and John at mattmemories.com at PayPal. So why don't we do this? We're going to play some of this brilliant. This is amazing Q&A. Donnie, you're right there in the front row taking pictures.
I soaked it up every second.
So I am going to share the screen here. We're going to get this thing. Let's take Karen off of there. Take care of that and share the screen. There we go. Let's enjoy this. Whoa. Sorry, folks. You know me. I'm not the best in the world here, technically. As long as it goes, man. If I mute myself, the sound goes off. Is that what happens?
Hey, Barbara, you want to come here and watch this with me for a few minutes?
Yes, we still got troubles today. What we do? Now we got people running for president. That's what I decided to do. I may run for president of the United States.
Yeah, big boy.
I'm not going to take a salary. I'm donating the salary. We'll give it back to the homeless and the poor.
This session will last about an hour. We're going to have your questions to our panel of experts up here to talk about what's going on in the business today. This is our third convention. This is the third question and answer session. It gets bigger every year. And before I even introduce the illustrious staff up here, illustrious, I got that for you.
Here's
my gimmick.
See what you want.
I got a couple of results from SummerSlam, if everyone's interested. Bret Hart lost the title to the very stylish blouse.
Who knows what's going to happen there, but I think when I enjoy the champion again.
Leave it to Bubba.
We got panel experts up here from all air comers up. I'll tell you, here's a guy invited on the panel. I'm going to introduce him first, matter of fact. You people are just there's a news reporter for a radio show called Vicious Vincent's World of Wrestling.
Georgia Macropolis is the lady.
So basically, another one is Carmine's and he's editor of the Wrestling Eye magazine, and I think it makes a little controversy. Thank you, John. I love you too. We're going to introduce everyone starting on my right here. We have Tim Warner from Smoky Mountain. Son from WYN out of Baltimore. Left is a wrestler that I've known since I was growing up back in when I first started watching wrestling. I certainly remember Jimmy Valiant, who was at that time then managed by the Grand Wizard King with a beautiful bobby as a shine, and then managed by Captain Lopano, what the Valiant brothers performed, and was perhaps the most exciting tag team ever in the WWWF. Jimmy! CC Top and the tattoos. If you want to watch cartoons, just spin Jimmy around for a half hour. Sitting on Jimmy's left is one of my dearest friends in the wrestling business. I've known her. Matter of fact, I have an interesting story to her. And we went to a wrestling match when 15 or 16 at the Brooklyn Roller Roundup. I was there with my sister Donna, who was in the front row, and I sent her up to get your autograph at that time. We've known you ever since. She's been a wonderful, wonderful friend of mine and a great ally in this business where sometimes allies are few and far between. Need no introduction to the wrestling business. All I got to say is the living legend, Bruno Sammartino. More tag team champions than anyone else, past, present, or future. He is a wrestling personality. Uncle Ivan's on my team. My daddy's introducing me. Don't come off his I need you world champion. Movie star. He got the sequel to Wise Guys. Yeah, with probably Joe Pesci playing Danny DeVito's part. Danny DeVito directed it. We're working on our Wise Guys Revenge of the Fixes. So we got that. We got a movie called Consultation with Tony Curtis, Leo Will. So they're keeping us busy. We got Captain Low School Scoop, and I'll go on and on and on and on. Go ahead. His left is, of course, the man who defeated Bruno Sammartino January 18, 1970. Professional wrestling, one of the true leaders in the business, and like everyone was saying, a little Ivan Koloff. Of course, we can open it up to your questions, but our panel of experts are legends in the business. And of course, we have some people starting up new promotions that we feel right now we got to get new blood into the wrestling business. We got to get new, strong regional territories back because the business has suffered so much over the last year. It's only two major organizations really, and there's very few independent wrestling associations out there. We are hopeful that will change. So we're here to talk about a number of things, but I want to throw out the first question to the panel. We have promoters here. We have legendary figures in the business. We have journalists. This past year, professional wrestling has suffered its worst year, publicity-wise, attendance-wise, and a lot of people feel sad about what's happening to the business and that can't be saved, quite frankly. I want to get everybody's opinion. I'm going to start this off Bruno Sammartino, and then anyone else who would like to jump in after Bruno, please answer the question. Bruno, what do you think about the business so far? Can it be salvaged?
Want us to stand up here?
Yes, please.
Oh, boy, a lot of you guys here are very young. You're in your 20s, so you're younger, some of you are older. So a lot of you, because I know the phone program makes it easy to think that why are we critical of what was going on in wrestling with such a man, because this is moving on and coming down to the future and all that. I interject, I don't want to say I told you so, but when this all started and I came back, I retired in 81. I came back in 84 as a color commentator. The big shock hadn't started yet. And when I saw it right before my eyes, I immediately wanted out. But they tried to pursue me because it's on a contract, so I had to fulfill my time. But I was very sick, very unhappy, and so forth. Because I saw then that what was happening, I really felt was going to be the downfall of professional wrestling. I tried a couple of times, even though he and I never tried, I never liked the man. I spoke to Mcmahon a couple of times and suggested to him that he was driving away the real fans, and the new fans he was drawing was going to be a fan. They're not going to be the loyal fans like I used to see. I used to be in Madison Square Garden, Boston, which my eyes would take me, I would see the same faces every time. Anyway, a lot of people disagreed with me, but I believe that in my heart. And each year that went by, I saw, even though a lot of the fans didn't, but I could see that the thing was coming to an end. And tragically, I hope that McMahon himself and his people would see that things were going downhill, and they would try to make some changes to try to turn it around. But they never did. And so I don't know if you people really are aware of just how bad things are. And it pains me because I love wrestling. A lot of people thought that I've been critical of wrestling. I am very critical of what they've done to the game that I loved all these years. But to answer your questions, can it come back? Some people agree, some disagree. I like the steps that Bill Watson's taken with the WCW, and the steps that he's taking is he wants to have there's going to be no room for that, because this is the only chance of it turning around. And if this fails, the only future I see in professional wrestling is that it has to die completely for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and then maybe like in the old days, the promoters will pop up like it used to be in past years in different territories, and eventually get back to basics, get rid of all the nonsense of the garbage, and get back into the basics, and get back into good, solid wrestling. And I think that's what I see for the future of professional wrestling.
Yeah. Business since 1953, just a little longer than Bruno, and I've seen ups and downs in professional wrestling. To me, it's a sport I love. I've put close to 40 years in the business, and as I said, they've damaged the sport today. I basically let off blame Vince McMahon Jr. because I feel that. People say professional wrestlers are the greatest athletes in the world, but we understand there's a certain amount of showmanship. I wouldn't go around with rubber bands. You wouldn't get my man Jimmy here with a beard down on the floor. And I mean, that's okay. You do a WrestleMania with Cindy Lauper every week, a pay-per-view event of this, or Mickey Mouse. I believe the salvation is if people like Bill Watts, who knows the business, and the WCW get back to the basics of wrestling and make wrestling what it should be, and the independent promoters, like these gentlemen here, get out and promote and push and
All right, Don. Basically, that's kind of like the same thing that's been going on even today. When you talk about pro wrestling, it is the same argument as we started the show with. It's the same thing, man.
Comes around, but it hasn't gone around yet. But looking at some of these people, it's just I'm naive. I listen to C and Bruno talk. He was a Superman. How could Bruno not be around anymore? Same thing, Captain Lou and Ivan Koloff. And I had an extra treat. When I left the convention, I was at LaGuardia, and Ivan was waiting for his plane as well. So I sat with him for about an hour until he was boarding for his plane. And it was just wonderful to speak with him. What's amazing when I look at that day is, God bless Georgie M. Acropolis, who ran the Bruno fan club for years. Those are the kind of devout fans that were around. I'm not saying there aren't fans today, but you were able to get much closer to the people that were involved in the business. But looking at Jimmy Valiant there, now, what Jimmy Valiant looked like when he first came there, first as a single, and then with Beautiful Bobby, and then with the Valiant Brothers. And when I look at Jimmy Valiant there, and he pretty much looks the same today that way, it's like, wow, it's, brings me way back. It's wonderful to reminisce.
Yeah, it is. And, there's more that comes on that Q&A. I mean, Nikolai Volkov shows up. He sings the Russian national anthem to everybody. And there's a lot of interaction with the fans. There's a lot of the newsletter people and in the audience asking questions back and forth. We've run out of time, unfortunately. But there's a young Mike Johnson there who and so many others, and you're up there shooting pictures. It goes on for quite a while, and I hope that people who would like to get a copy of the entire 2 hours just goes to PayPal, John Arezzi, or John at mattmemories.com. You can have a private link for the entire 2 hours for just $10. And if you like it on a USB drive, it includes postage plus a private link for $25. And that's it. I mean, Donnie, we're entering 2021. Let's bring producer Dominic on, another Mets fan. Speaking of Vince Russo, see that picture above Don's?
I noticed that.
That is a picture that Vinny Russo painted for me and my nephew last Christmas. How do you like that? So even everyone yelling Russo sucks and he's so polarizing, all of that after all the shit that we went through years ago, and he's still polarizing today. That was a nice thing that he did for me and my nephew by giving us our own picture that almost actually gave my sister convulsions.
It's not very good.
That's neat.
It's a Russo original. Let's put it that way, folks. You should see his picture. He did a Bruce Mitchell. Oh, my God. But anyway, Don, I'm so happy that we're going to be talking to you more often this year. It's going to be fun. You're going to be finding these legends like Paul the Butcher Vachon and so many others that are out there who probably would love the opportunity to talk. Maybe we bring Ken Patera on. Who knows who else is going to be joining us as we proceed in 2021. And we spoke before the broadcast started earlier today, and you're up there, up in near Cooperstown, New York, and you're still in the medical industry as well. So stay safe. And, let's kind of beat this thing this year so we'd all go back to baseball and visit you in Cooperstown and go to Hall of Fame.
All righty. Have a good show. Good night, rather. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
To you.
All right. Everybody. We really appreciate the time you've given us today. The picture is scary, Richard. Yes. Would you like one painted of yourself, Richard? We can make that happen.
I think you should paint it.
Anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. It was good to see you back. We missed a few weeks, and we'll be back next Saturday, hopefully for another show with who knows who. We're trying to get guests lined up as we always do. So until next week, when we talk more wrestling with you, this is John Arezzi, and this is producer Dominic. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe out there.